Well, good morning. We're glad you're with us. If you're visiting today, we always kind of start off with a call and response. Are you guys ready to go? All right, here we go. We've gathered together to spur one another on toward. We're finishing a series today on being emotionally mature. This is a series that I've done for 4 weeks, and there's no way I'm going to kind of catch up if you're checking us out for the first time right now. So I'll do my best to try to recap a little bit, but I want to just encourage you to check this out online so you can kind of catch up, because some of this stuff really is cohesive, and you need to hear some of the backdrop of some of this. But with emotions, this is a difficult topic for some people. With difficult experiences come difficult emotions and a lot of stuff to process through. And sometimes our culture, how we grew up, teaches us or leads us to process emotion one way or another, whether it's healthy or not. And many of you have reached out to kind of talk to me privately and just maybe get some direction or prayer or counsel. And if that's you, please do that. You can reach me at Kaboom, q@514church.com to talk about anything. And that's totally private. One of the things that has been foundational for this series, that if you walk away and you don't remember anything else, you got to remember this. It's that spiritual and emotional maturity may be distinct, but in real life, they are almost inseparable. To say that you're spiritually mature, but you're not emotionally mature, it doesn't really jive. Because when we look at what it means to be spiritually mature, so much of that has to do with the growth and the knowledge and the substantive kind of maturity related to your emotions, the fruit that comes from that. Many of the fruits of the Spirit are kind of ripened, if you will, fruit that takes time and you want to grow. And so we believe that you have to kind of engage in the process of your emotions. And the reason that we're doing this series, and I've told you guys this, is because our kids' camp is called Camp Kaboom, and we are going to be teaching our kids the very basic tenets of what I've taught throughout this series. And so we want the church and our kids and families to be on the same page as it relates to the process of emotions and what God has to say about that and how to manage them together. And I just want to encourage you guys. I want to just remind you, I just want to give you more handles today for the process of dealing with your emotions and for a way to evaluate your intelligence or your maturity or your agility related to your emotions. One way to look at this, if you're just doing some self-reflection, is a sign of emotional intelligence or maturity is refusing to inflict a bad mood on others. Right? So when you are emotionally mature, then emotions kind of move into your life. You experience things and you have the ability to identify them, kind of capture them, and process them in a way that doesn't just bleed naturally out onto the world around you. And this is something that takes intentionality. Like, you're not just going to have emotions and then be able to wrangle them, kind of articulate them, process them in a healthy way if you don't try. Because that's the thing about emotions, is there's something innate in us that kind of grabs us, that makes us want to respond or react. And our job is to do it the way that we're supposed to, in a healthy way, as opposed to just kind of let them go and do whatever they do. Anyone can feel anger, right? Not everyone knows how to carry it without it spreading all over the place. Immature people, they just kind of let their emotions leak all over the place, right? And then mature people process them. You do not have to be perfect. Like, you don't have to, always. As I was sharing this last service, I forgot to say, like, that as a leader, you set the emotional temperature for whatever area you're leading in. You set the weather, right? So when I come into the office, if I'm moody and cranky and I do that consistently, then that sends the signal, like, this is how we are around here. And that means that my emotions and how I present are they're so vital to a room when you're a leader, that I have to be emotionally mature, because if I let my emotions run away, then suddenly just the way I feel can kind of dictate the health of the way that a group functions. And that is so dysfunctional, right? So if I'm moody, then everyone's like, oh, watch out, how's he gonna be today? And it's my job not to fake it. We talked about that in this series. It's my job to go down into the depths of my soul, into the darkness, and process the pain in a healthy way so that it doesn't explode and leak out all over everybody. Everyone's allowed to have a bad day, but it's never an excuse to ruin someone else's, right? You are responsible for your emotions. You are not necessarily the reason that you have your emotions, but when you have a response to something that's emotional, it's your emotions. It's not someone else's. It's something that's happening in your life and you are responsible for dealing with them. People can do things that cause you to feel a certain way, and they are certainly responsible for how they are treating you. But your emotions and how you manage them, 100% your responsibility. It's 100% your responsibility to manage your emotions in a mature way. So everyone's allowed to have a bad day, but it's not an excuse to ruin someone else's. And when we start to understand that we have emotions and emotions can run away from us, this is when we start to be able to articulate them enough and process them in a healthy way. You ever notice peaceful people don't often just have fewer problems, right? I met a lot of people who are like really peaceful, and I've met a lot of different people in different places where I'm like, man, that person just has like a vibe. Like they just have like they're just like, they seem very peace-filled. They seem very kind of flexible, go with the flow, but, present. You meet people like this. I remember like last year I met a guy, and he's a great guy. He's real level-headed and very kind, and it just seemed like he had it all together. And I found out later that he has gone through 6 years of cancer battles, that he has literally been in the hospital for surgeries at least 6 times. And at 1 or 2 of those times, they thought it was terminal and he thought he wasn't gonna make it. I remember learning, like, what? It's like, here's a person that has gone through a lot, but they still have peace. So a peaceful person doesn't necessarily just have less bad stuff happen to them. They metabolize the stuff that's happening to them in a different way than most of the people around them. And therefore they don't let, or they will not let, other people pay for the bad stuff that's happening to them. These are the decisions that have to be made and processed if we're gonna be spiritually mature. So we have Camp Kaboom coming up. And if you are a parent, you need to sign your kids up for Camp Kaboom because they need to get a t-shirt. And there will be a moment when you pass the point of no return, and then you will categorically be a bad parent who didn't get their kid signed up in time, so they didn't get the t-shirt. And you may not care about all that, but your kid, when they come and everybody has that t-shirt and they don't, they're gonna come home and they're gonna express some emotion to you. They're gonna be frustrated. And if you don't kind of do this, so we want you to have your kid have a t-shirt so they can be in the right group and all that stuff. It's how we run the camp. And I am going to just give you a brief overview of what I'm gonna teach them in the 3 nights of camp. Here's the 3 things that I'm gonna be teaching them, which is just a very, very reduced version of what we've gone through this series. But night 1, I'm gonna be teaching them just that they have feelings. Like that you have feelings, like you are happy, you are sad, you get scared. All that is very, very normal. Like you were made to have those things. Everybody has those feelings, and you have to learn to express those feelings in a healthy way. And that first night, I will use this example, right? So the air is our experiences, right? And everybody has experiences happen all day. And if we just kind of like fill up with experiences, but we don't let it out and express it in the right way, eventually, if you just fill it up, it explodes. And so that's night 1. I'm gonna be teaching the kids. You have experiences, and with experience comes emotions. Happy, sad, mad, scared, whatever they are, that's normal. You're supposed to have those things. What you need to learn to do is express those, because if you don't, then they'll just keep coming. They don't go away until they're expressed. And so you express them, and then you won't explode. It's that simple. So they're gonna leave night one thinking, I get to go home and express my emotions. And they will not understand yet that there's a when and a how and a where. So that should be a fun night for you. When they come home and they're just like, I'm upset. Pastor said I can express my emotions. I don't know why I'm doing this voice, but that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna do that, and you're gonna be like, just wait till tomorrow night, but go to bed. Because what I'm gonna teach them on night two, we just want them to understand you have emotions and you are designed as an expressor. You're supposed to cry, you're supposed to laugh, you're supposed to share. That's part of what it means to be a human, all right? So if we can just get them to think that way, that's step one. Night two will be about who and how you express. Okay, who you express to and how you express. This is not an invitation, I have emotions and I need to express them. This isn't a license for you kids to complain whenever you want. This isn't something that you do all the time everywhere. And I'm gonna teach them that the reason is because not everybody is going to care for the way they feel the way that they want them to. And we all know this is true, right? And your emotions, if you just express them, they have all this kind of impact on the world around you, and that may not be what's best for the community that you're in, to just have to deal with all of your emotions all the time. So what you have to learn to do is express your emotions to someone you trust. So when you have hard emotions, you need to understand that those are precious things. If you're sad or you're scared or you got something going on, you don't just go and tell everybody. You don't just stand up in front of the class. You don't just say it right away. You don't just put it on Instagram. You tell your emotions to someone who actually cares about the way you feel and will listen to you. Now, parents, you need to hear that, right? Like that's part of why we're doing this in concert, because your job is to, when your kid comes to you, to be that safe place, right? To be that place where they feel that they can express whatever they want to, because you have shown them that you are there to help them. You exist to help them the way that God exists to help us. And we talked about that last week. When an adolescent kids, when they come to us for help, it's a major parenting win. You see, you and I are supposed to be on the receiving end of a kid that comes to us and goes, I feel I'm in trouble, I don't know what to do. And our job is not to just like discipline them or punish them. We want them to feel that they can express anything they want, say anything they want, and that we're gonna listen and not judge at first, and then we're gonna move through the process of moving forward. But our job is not to just make them scared. Our job is not to just discipline them. Our job is to actually help them. And sometimes that means correction, accountability. In the church, there is this idea, spare the rod, hate the child, right? It's like the spanking families. And there's this idea that like if you spank, then you're a real Christian, right? Because in Proverbs it says, spare the rod, hate the child. Well, it's kind of a ridiculous notion to think that if your kid breaks a rule or they do something or they express something that they're feeling, that you think that because Proverbs says to spare the rod, hate the child, means that you're just supposed to spank them and that'll fix it. That is a complete lack of wisdom. The proverb is about how if you actually love someone, then you will do whatever is necessary to help them. Now, does that exclude what else we know about life? A word to the wise is, when we're leading people, our kids or whatever, the goal is to use the minimum amount of force necessary. Minimum. So like growing up, I needed spanked. We used to roll off the roof. You know, it's like if you roll off the roof, literally, we would get on the top of the roof, like you get on the top of the hill, and get like this and roll down sideways onto the grass. That's what we would do. You know what? That kid needs spanked because he's already landing at 15 feet on his bones, and he's not learning that it's gonna be a problem. I needed spanked for that. My wife was the kind of kid that like, if you go like this, she stops doing that for like 3 years. Just a look. Katie, done. That's all she needs. You see how foolish it is to think you do something, I'm gonna bring the rod? No. The rod represents the idea that I will do whatever is necessary to help you. I will guide you down the road. If that doesn't help, I'll give you more. If that doesn't help, I'll make a bigger adjustment. We'll put up more boundaries. We'll put up more rules. And if we have to, we'll spank you because you're not getting the message. And all we're trying to do is help. The idea is that I would never spare whatever is necessary to help someone along the way. And so what we want is we want to be parents who, when their kids express emotion, we let them express emotion. We don't judge it. We just let it happen. They say, I'm so angry. You don't sit there and go, oh, you shouldn't think that way. Oh, you shouldn't, no. We're not talking right away when they express emotion about what to do. That's what I'm gonna talk to today, how to make decisions with keeping space for your emotions. If someone is sad, and this is something that kind of gets played out in like sexual politics all the time. It's a typical thing between like guys and girls, right? Girls will they'll express their emotions. And guys, what do you wanna do right away? Fix it. You wanna fix it, okay? Actually being emotionally intelligent and creating a space where emotions are part of our reality, the way that God designed it, means that when emotions are expressed, we're not trying to fix anything. We're just sitting in them. We're just gonna sit in it. We're just gonna feel it. We're just gonna let it be. If we're sad, we're just gonna be sad. Now imagine like the idea of going to someone who's really sad. Maybe they lost a loved one and they're sitting at a funeral and you go to them, you know the joy of the Lord is your strength. This is not helpful. Jesus wept. Like there's a time for emotion. There's a time to just let it out. That's what we have to start to understand about emotions, right? Let them fly. What do you feel? What did that make you think? Whatever. Talk about it. Now it's like I can say anything to them. Now it's like we can move through life together and we can talk about what to do. And that's what I'm gonna help you with. So night one, you have feelings. They have to be expressed. Night two, you should only express them to people who will actually listen to you in a place where people are trying to actually help you. And then night three, God has emotions, is an emotional being who created you in his image. He has feelings and you can run and share your feelings with him. This is the reality we want everyone to understand, right? We have emotions and we're made that way. We should express them to people who listen. If you don't have someone who listens, you will always have a God who will hear you. You can express to him. You can go to him in prayer. You can tell him anything. And if a kid walks out knowing, man, if I'm hurt, I'm allowed to say that I'm hurt. And I could tell a trusted adult or a good friend, but even if they won't listen, I have a God whose door is always open and will always listen. And in fact, in Psalm 62, it says, trust in him at all times. Oh, people, pour out your hearts before him. We are commanded to run to God with what we feel and what we're experiencing. Now, what I wanna do right now is just give us kind of the final, of the landing of the plane for how do we make decisions while allowing this space for emotion and expression to be a very vital part of the dynamic that we're living in and working through. What role does emotion play in decision making? Okay, because what happens is oftentimes we don't parse cognition and action with our emotion. We have a feeling, and the feeling has authority. It has something to tell us, and we think that it's connected directly to what ought to be done or what to think. We have to start to get more broken up about that. We have to be able to just talk about the way we feel, express it without it having any recourse. Just being upset. You know, it's like you come home from the office and you're just gonna say it, and it's like, this isn't decision making, this isn't, and again, this isn't grumbling and complaining. This is, I feel so sad. Maybe you lost the job, maybe you got let go, and you're just hurt. You feel betrayed, you feel blindsided, right? This isn't come home and talk about how your boss is such a jerk. This isn't come home and say why everyone else should be gone and not me, I'm the only one that works. This is you going, how do I feel? And answering that question, I feel sad. I feel embarrassed. I'm disappointed. In saying that, Do you know if you get to how you really feel instead of like projecting on everything else? Well, this is the problem, and they're the problem, and they're the problem. It's like, dude, how do you feel? Not diagnose the situation yet. What does this make you feel? So now we feel it, we express it, and you know what happens every single time? And this is something my wife has taught me as we interact. When you just let it be, it's like we're not making decisions. We're just talking about how we feel. That really frustrates me. That really when they say that, that angers me. That makes me, really feel like lost or unseen. It's like, yeah. Then all of that bluster and all of that kind of exhale, it moves through the space. And then it's like, well, what do you need from me? You start to move towards cognition. You start to move towards decision without all of that emotion that's unexpressed clouding the issue. This is the process that we have to start to go through, right? I'm thinking about kids going to school. As we got kids graduating and going to college. Sometimes expressing emotion can be really tough when you're young. You don't know how, you haven't been given the tools or the liberty to do so. One of the things that I notice about college students is they often go to their freshman year and then they don't like it. They wanna move home. They don't like it, or they wanna go somewhere else or whatever it is. And what I notice in a lot of them is there's an embarrassment. It's like, I didn't get it right. I didn't make the right decision. Oh, I have to explain all this. And I just wanna encourage you, when you're that young, no one's upset that you changed your mind. Everyone's okay that you made a different decision. And what you need to learn to do is just say I didn't like it. I didn't feel like it was my spot. I just wasn't feeling like it was good, and I made a decision. And just be honest about it, and then move forward. It's okay to do that type of expressing and then make a decision. So, what role does emotion play in decision making? So as you can see, this is a high-tech factory of your soul. And this is what's going on in you. Whenever you have experiences that kind of go in, then something comes out, an action, a direction, a decision. This action represents what you actually believe, okay? What's going on in here is not what you believe, right? This is an equation that leads to what you do, to what you believe. And so what we've done in this series, we've said we need to have room inside of us for the way that we feel. So we're adding feeling. What do I feel about the situation? All right, and that's what we've been talking about a lot. But when you back up and you have big feelings, what you need to do is what I just described to you. You need to start breaking down the experience before you move forward and ask the question first, what do I know? What do I know? Something happens to you. What do you know? What are the facts? So you have a big feeling and you're angry and you're frustrated and you express all that, and now you gotta do something. You should not base what you're gonna do just on this. Back up. What do I know? What do I know? And know is fact, some facts. Maybe it's an experience. What has been my experience? What have I learned? Right? That's what you know. And so you start to add that to it. Okay, how do we make decisions? Feelings isn't the boss. We've just given it a space. And maybe feeling, the way you feel about a situation, informs what you ultimately do more than you thought. It's like, I feel that person, makes me feel small and they don't care about me, and I don't know. I feel something around them, I don't feel happy at that job. I don't. Okay, all right. Well, what do you know? Well, we gotta pay the bills. Well, it is a good job. You know what I mean? This is the stuff. I know this can be patronizing, but can I tell you that most people that I speak with, not just in the church, in the world, don't actually think about how and why they make decisions. You know that? Think about it. What do most people do? They mostly go on their feeling. And then when you come to church, the church says, feelings are bad. Neither are right. Feelings are feelings. You have them. They inform you inside. What do I feel? What is this like for me? I'm happy, I'm scared. Okay, now let's back out. Let's make a good decision. What we're talking about here is how to create a system of values that leads to how you decide what to do. And so you think about what you know, and then you actually think about what you think. You know, this is one of the signs of the highest form of intelligence, is when you actually think about what you think about. So you stop and you go, what is my perspective on this situation? How have I processed this? This starts to get into those phrases like, what do I believe? What are my convictions? I have done some experiences and had something happen to me, and I know some facts, and now I have an idea about what this is in the world and how to respond to it, and I feel a certain way about that. And as I put all of this together, these things should lead to a forward moving action step. But the question has to be, what informs these? So if we're going to actually think good thoughts, have certain experiences, and feel the right way, what informs it? What I would encourage you to do, and this is something I tell every young married that I'm meeting with or in type of counseling, is you have to define your values. Here's what happens in life. Life happens. We respond. And that's our value, whatever happens naturally. And we don't even describe it. We don't even define our values. But it's like suddenly, when the rubber meets the road, you make a decision. And you find that you haven't thought about that decision. So it's like in parenting, right? So in parenting, if you don't define your values related to parenting, then you just kind of go through life and you parent, then there's a problem and you have to make a decision about what to do when you're parenting that kid. And if you've never thought about what your values are, you know what you do? You just do what your parents did. Or you do exactly the opposite of what they did, which is not thinking. That's not thinking. That's reacting. Well, I never thought about that. Well, hey, sweetie, do you think that we should, well, I don't really know. I think we should just boom. And you know what you just say? You just say the only thing you've ever been exposed to. That's what your parents did. So that's their values, not really yours. Then you start to do that thing, and you go, ooh, I don't really like this. Why? Because something inside of me has some different values. Like I said, the opposite is true. Sometimes you'll have to make a decision about whatever it is, and then you just back up and go, well, whatever it is, I'm not doing what they did. And that's not a value-based decision either. And so what we're supposed to do is figure out what we operate from. You wanna know how to make decisions? Well, what's your baseline? You're gonna feel things, you're gonna think things, you're gonna know things. Well, how do you make the right decision based upon all of that? Now that we kind of square all that away. To identify your values is to identify a core principle that most deeply guides your decisions, your priorities, your behaviors, your relationship, and your sense of meaning. Define your reason or your reasons for your sense of meaning. What is actually driving you? And I will argue that whatever is at the highest in your mind is what drives what you do. And you filter it through this. So if you don't actually do some self-evaluation, you will probably allow something like your ego, success, money, comfort. One of the gods of the ages is comfort. That's a value system. That means the decision that you're gonna make, no matter what happens in here, is I'm going to filter all of what I know, think, and feel through comfort. I just wanna be comfortable. And then, of course, that can mean things. I don't wanna upset people. I don't wanna be seen. I just wanna go home and go to sleep, whatever it is. But a lot of people will never actually think about what they put up here to actually say, this is the framework that I'm going to think about what I know, process what I think, and process my emotions to good forward-moving actions. What do you value? To land the plane here. In the Greek, there is a word that means reason or logic. Your reason. What is your reason? And that word is logos. Anybody ever heard the word logos? That's where we get the word logic or reason. Greek philosophers would talk about logos. What is your logos? And in Greek philosophy, there was different sects, like different kind of camps, if you will. One of the popular ones is the Stoics. A lot of people read the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, these types of people, right? And they had a whole proposition. They had a whole principle-based life that they kind of ran by. The Stoics, just for example, their idea of logos was the discipline of aligning your mind with the order of reality. That's what logos was to the Stoics. You need to align your mind with reality. Not what you want, not what you hope, not when circumstances go your way, but when they go, however they go, that's reality. That's reality. You need to align with that. So their idea was the idea that reality follows an order, whether you agree with it or not. All right? So you have reality, and it's fixed. And their idea, and that's the logos. The logos is reality. And so it's just like this stone pillar, and you're supposed to live your life around it. And the idea is that it's not moving. So you need to build your life around the immovable logos, the fixed reality. That's the way they would think about logos. And so that to them was at the top that way. But it was a proposition, right? It was like a principle. Reality has an ultimate fixed state. It doesn't negotiate with you. Things that don't happen the way you want, or people who don't act the way you expect. When you have outcomes that don't follow your plans, if your first reaction is always, this shouldn't be happening, that sentence is the source of your suffering. Because you just haven't adjusted your mind that you can't change what's happening to you. You can only adjust to what's happening to you, and that is the logos. It's not the event, but your refusal to accept it. That is the problem. So that's the way they looked at it. Another way that the philosophers would discuss logos, the logos of things. What is the logos of things? Was to know the logos of things is to know the reason that something exists. What is the reason for something to exist? And unless you align yourself with the reason, you're gonna have a problem. So everything has a logos, they would say. A good example is, if I have a wristwatch, right, which I don't, as a Whoop band, but I have a wristwatch. If I use my watch as a hammer, what's gonna happen? It's gonna break, right? Because the reason that the watch is there is to tell me time, not to hammer nails. That's the watch's logos. The watch has a logos. It's its reason for existence, is to tell time, right? I have to align myself with the logos, with the reason, with the logic of the watch, not the other way around. Another way to think about that is like a space heater. Like a space heater, if you try to cook eggs on a space heater, that means you're gonna have really weird eggs in a bad smelling house. Because you're not aligning with the logos, you're not aligning with the purpose of the space heater. So, when the book of John, which you read the first few verses of the book of John, was written, Greeks believed that humans had a logos. They had a reason, they had a logic. There was a reason that they existed in the world. And they would kind of pontificate, and they'd have all these different ideas, and here's a proposition, and here's a principle, and it's like, this is what you should align your life with. This is the reason that you exist. It's you know, to do this or to do X, and you can go read just soliloquies by all the different Greek philosophers related to what they believed the purpose of the human existence was. But they would call it the logos, your reason. You're the watch, and you were made for X, and they would try to define X. When John comes along, he revolutionizes human history with one single thought. And he says this, and some of you grew up in church, you might know this. He says that there is a logos. There is an ultimate purpose. There is an ultimate reason for your existence and reason for your life, but it's not a principle. And it's not a proposition. it's a person. And they go, what? You mean it's not like some well-crafted sentences that represent the etching of wisdom in my brain throughout the ages? No. The reason for your existence, the logic behind your life and what you are to align yourself to so that you might do what the Creator intended you to do, the logos behind all of the universe and humans that are sitting in this room and all throughout time is not an idea, it's a person. So Jesus is the creator of the world, and you have to understand, if only people that were smart could know the logos, that would mean it would have to be a proposition. People can't read, people don't understand all the principles, so only elite people have a logos if it's a proposition. But if it's a person, everyone can know a person. Everyone can hear a story about a person. And so what John comes along and says is, in the beginning was the reason. In the beginning was your reason. The maker, in the beginning was the logic behind what you are supposed to do with your life. So what you know about life, what you think about life, what you feel about life, all of that has to be filtered through the purpose of your existence, the logos, which of course, this is Sunday school, so here we go. What's the answer to every question in Sunday school? Jesus. Jesus is the answer. Now, it's not just like this simple answer that you just go, oh, Jesus, like you know the answer. Jesus is the person of God in the flesh who reveals to you and me how we are to live our lives and what we are to align our lives to. So in Jesus, you have someone who made all things and knows all things, who teaches all things and help you can understand all things, and who is a person who walked around in the flesh, who thinks and feels and cries and laughs. And what the Bible teaches is that when you align yourself, that your decision-making factory, your action, is a combination of going, okay, what do I know, what do I think, what do I feel, and how does all of that relate to and get communicated through the person of Jesus? Then this right here is gonna give you everything you need to know about what to do. Everything. You don't just align yourself with the principle. You have principles, but those are secondary. Those are submissive to the person of Jesus Christ. So anyone who actually studies, or I'll put it this way, worships Jesus, same thing. You see, study means to focus your attention on. Worshiping Jesus means you focus on him. Your eyes are on him. So when you open up the text and you look at the life of Jesus, anyone I know who really studies Jesus has absolutely no problem with the idea that feelings are a part of the human experience. They go, I follow Jesus. And he went and he sat with someone who was crying. He went with someone who was an outcast in society. I was listening to John chapter 2 this morning, and this is one of my favorite chapters that I've ever listened to, I've ever read. It's where Jesus turns the water into wine. I just want you to get, if you just study Jesus, it's what are we supposed to do with life? How do we metabolize feelings? How do we metabolize all of our life? You just look at Jesus and start to put it all in order. So Jesus turns water into wine. What does that mean about Jesus? He's at a wedding, it's a party, it's a celebration. The celebration goes, and Jesus fixes it. He's the life of the party. He's there, and he gives them more wine, and they celebrate more. And Jesus is in the middle of it. I mean, I don't know that he did the Macarena, but he might have. He did the electric slide or something, right? He did. He was there doing that. Do you know, and this is so funny, I have read John chapter 2 100 times. You know, in the same chapter, what happens is it's right in between 2 and 3, but the next major event, you know what Jesus does? He's over here, the life of the party, joy, celebration. How are we supposed to live our life? Joy, celebration. And then what does he do? He goes to the temple. You know what he does? He makes a whip. He makes a whip. Jesus makes a whip, and he starts to whip people and overthrow the tables. He's so mad that they're turning a house of prayer into a den of thieves that he actually like whips people. Now, if we all had that like on like Instagram or like a little spot, we'd be like, dude, this dude is uncorked. Not when you know who he is. A house of prayer, people capitalizing on foot traffic to make money when they're supposed to be there to make sacrifices to God. Every single person, if you knew the context, you would go, that's righteous anger. He has a right to be mad, and he should do that and a whole lot more. And we're lucky he didn't do a whole lot more. This is the God that we worship. You want to know that life is about what you know, what you think, what you feel. How do you process your feelings? You take everything through the person of Jesus. You are going to see a God who celebrates by turning water into wine, who's broken down to tears and sweats blood in Gethsemane. A God who expresses every single emotion that is possible, and yet is the author and perfecter of life, knows every source and is the source of all wisdom. You filter everything really through the person of Jesus, your emotions, your thoughts, what you do next, and you're gonna be on the right track. This is the person who lives, who laughs, who grieves, who gets angry. He's the best listener. He's the fountain of wisdom and truth. Do not align yourself with you. Do not align yourself alone with your emotions. Do not align yourself with information. Align yourself with the logos, the reason that you exist. You're the watch. Be used to tell time. Be used to live in his image. And this all starts to make sense in the holistic reality that we live in following Christ. So I'm gonna say a prayer for you guys, and I'm excited for the next few weeks as we get ready for kids camp, as we get ready for Sunday morning camp here at 514 Church in the month of June. That's coming up. And do not forget to sign your kids up for Camp Kaboom because they need a t-shirt. All right, let me pray for you guys. God, I thank you so much for the truth that we get to learn as we open up your word. That is not just, some kind of information on a page, but a very specific revelation of who you are, God, your character in the flesh. And we see you, God, and it is in you that we are given direction and permission for how we ought to live and be and grow. And so, God, help us to be beings who process our emotions in a healthy way, who understand that you made us and you love us, and that you get angry and that you are sad and that you have joy and that we are supposed to be this way. Help us to do it in a healthy way. Help us to do it in a way that really represents you to the world. We love you so much. We thank you for your constant grace and mercy. We pray, God, that every one of us would make it a regular habit to run into your presence, to worship you and know you, and to find grace and mercy, and to pour out our souls to you. Father, we just love you and thank you. Amen. All right, my friends, love you guys. We'll see you next week.